Hello, 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 and welcome, my beautiful friends and family, to another episode of Beyond the podcast where if you annoy us, we're going to sneak a little tiny plastic baggie full of salt into your suitcase, and you're going to get pulled over in the airport for cocaine. Let's move on into the world news. There's some very, very interesting stuff, some funny stuff, some interesting stories, some technical, inventions and advancements, and then some stuff in science. So let's just jump right on into it with something that I think is kind of a fun story rather than a really serious one. And this is giant human-sized penguins once swam the seas of New Zealand. There's an image of a lady standing next to this penguin that they've recreated using the fossils, and it's almost as tall as she is, but like 3 times wider than her because it's a big old penguin. So I'll read into this. A new species of ancient giant penguin measured 5.2 feet tall has been found from fossils in New Zealand. 4 other species of giant ancient penguins have been discovered here, with the first recovery being more than 30 years ago, making the site significant for understanding the evolution of penguins over tens of millions of years. When the Crossvalia species were alive, New Zealand and Antarctica were very different from today. Antarctica was covered in forest, and both had much warmer climates. So this one's just funny. There's nothing really there's no implications here, but just picture for a moment here, if you can, close your eyes. Unless you're driving, don't close your eyes, unless you have a Tesla. Just think of a penguin standing next to you, or your girlfriend, or whoever, and it's as tall as you are. And then just think of its beak being like literally 2.5 feet long. I don't know. It's just an interesting thing. Imagine being able to give a penguin a whole hug and it's as big as you are. I'm thinking it's cute, but then as I'm actually visualizing this with you guys, I'm thinking it's actually kind of terrifying. Like I'd want, like for example, like a seal is really cute, or like a sea lion, real cute. I want to go give it a hug, but I'm not going to because I think it'd slap the crap out of me. I feel like a penguin, that's a big penguin. It could do a lot to you. Anyways, moving on to more important things. I just thought I'd open up with a fun, goofy one. Scientists, I guess I have a lot of goofy ones today. Scientists have created a vaccine to stop you from being allergic to your cat. Right? I can hear a lot of people being stoked about this right now. I imagine there's a lot of people who love cats who can't have them because they're allergic. Like my friend Will cannot be around cats for very long. For many years, there has been an ongoing discussion on breeding or even genetically modifying cats into hypoallergenic versions of themselves. A team of researchers has now solved the problem in a different way. They've created a vaccine for cat allergens. The vaccine's not for humans, but it's for the cats, and it targets proteins FeLD1. That's funny, feline D1. Which is the major of 5 allergenic substances that cats produce. The substance is produced in the cat's saliva and sebaceous glands. Though we are not sure what its function is, around 10% of the Western population is allergic to this, which makes sense because not a ton of people are allergic to cats, but there's always somebody, right? Both human subjects and animals could profit from this treatment because allergic cat owners would reduce their risk of developing chronic diseases such as asthma and become more tolerant of their cats, which therefore could stay in the households and not need to be relinquished to animal shelters. So, I mean, I don't know if that's going to roll out and it's going to be like a thing that happens all over the place, but if it did, it'd be interesting because they would do that with every cat, especially since this vaccine that's not for humans, it's for cats. When you take your cat or your dog in, they always give it like a whole bunch of shots, a whole host of them, and then it also they spray and neuter your dog or cat. That would just be one of the things. And it'd be interesting if they had this come out where they just got rid of this, and they probably focus on the other things that make cats allergic to people. And eventually, we would just have every dog and every cat in the world that's domestic would not make you allergic. There'd be no allergies anymore. That'd be interesting. That'd be pretty cool because I love me some dogs and cats. I always feel bad for people who can't be around them because I love cats and dogs. Anyways, here's a more serious one. I was going to do a goofy one, but I want to do not only goofy ones. Okay, so this is serious. Fukushima is running out of space to store its tons of radioactive water. So after being struck by an earthquake, a 49-foot tsunami in 2011. By the way, I don't know if a lot of you guys remember, but that's crazy. 50 feet tall tsunami. Imagine looking into the distance and seeing a water wall coming towards you. My brain has always gone to such interest with tsunamis because it's like, I don't know, it seems so not real, but man, what do you do in that situation? You're like, all right, well, we have a couple minutes till it hits us, right? Right now we're not in danger, but like once it actually hits, we're going to be underwater. Anyways, it hit 3 reactors in the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant in northeastern Japan, and it suffered catastrophic meltdowns. It became the second most severe nuclear disaster since the 1986 Chernobyl event. While it's now estimated that 96% of the power plant can be safely accessed without protective clothing, it's expected to take another 40 years to decontaminate the affected areas and complete the decommissioning of the plant. As part of this ongoing clear-up, around 1,000 specialized tanks were built to store the amount of water that flooded in from the tsunami wave or were used to cool the melted reactors. Some of the water has been treated through the removal of cesium, although much of it remains radioactive due to the presence of tritium, a relatively harmless isotope of hydrogen that's tough to separate from water. There's currently 1.15 million tons of this radioactive water being stored at the facility in 960 tanks and is continuing to accumulate at a rate of about 150 tons a day, meaning the tanks will reach full capacity sometime in 2022. So this basically leads them to a big issue of like, how are they going to deal with this? And they have a couple different kind of, ideas on this. They have floated the idea of gradually pumping the treated water into the Pacific Ocean. This is the only option favored by the International Atomic Energy Agency and Japan's Nuclear Regulation Authority. However, this is a hugely unpopular choice among local residents, fishermen, and environmentalists. And I think I agree. Here's a little gross fact that you might not know about our own water treatment facilities. When we pee and poo and we have sewage, that sewage water is treated often. It's not like we just store it in tanks and forget about it. And it's not like we just pump it straight out into the ocean. Generally, we treat that water, and if we treat it enough, we actually put it back into circulation. We put it right into our normal water, like stuff that comes out of your sink, stuff that goes into, your glass of water that you're drinking. But there's a regulatory body that determines the amount of acceptable filth per unit in your water. So that means that the treatment facility has to treat it good enough that it gets less than right? Let me just make something up, like 0.06 particles of fecal matter per gallon of water, something like that, right? Who knows what the number actually is. But that means that technically there's actually allowed to be a certain amount of fecal waste matter in there. And they have to do this, of course, because it's impossible to do anything perfect. But if you think about it, if it was that much per gallon, if you just evaporated 1,000 gallons of water, then you would have 1,000 times 0.06 fecal matter. So you'd maybe have a couple grams of poop. It's real weird. You think about that being in your water. It's just diluted. Same kind of a thing with this, except instead of it being poop, which is really gross, and it is dangerous, but it's not as dangerous as radioactivity. That's what I think is, gosh damn. You're thinking about pumping millions of tons of radioactive water into the ocean. I just feel like there's already so much weird stuff that happens in the ocean with our fish and stuff, and I just feel like that wouldn't be the best choice. Moving along, there's nothing more to that story quite yet, so that's going to develop. This one is really cool. I like to put in a couple tech ones that just really make me think in the future where this can go. Artificial tongue is able to taste differences between whiskeys with 99% accuracy. Scientists have developed artificial skin, artificial eyes, and are even in the progress of designing an artificial brain of sorts for the U.S. military, which that sentence already is enough for me to be stoked. Artificial skin, artificial eye, amazing. Meanwhile, researchers from the University of Glasgow, for those of you who are going to get up my butt on that one, have been working on an artificial tongue for the simple and wholesome purpose of whiskey tasting. So that's completely pointless and ridiculous. I think that's a generalization that someone who wrote the article said, because that's for sure not the reason they would spend so much money on this. This isn't the world's first artificial tongue, but it is the first artificial tongue made with 2 types of nanoscale metal taste buds, a feature that improves its taste testing ability and enables it to provide more information on the samples it tastes, and faster too. So how exactly does it work? It uses the optical properties of gold and aluminum. Submicroscopic slices of the metal are woven together to form a checkerboard pattern. When they are submerged into a liquid, tiny differences in the ways the two metals absorb light enables them to differentiate between different types of whiskey. Impressively, the device is able to test differences between drinks with a greater than 99% accuracy. Not only can it tell you your Glenfiddich from your Glenmarnock and your Lapfroage, obviously I don't drink whiskey, but it can also identify differences in the same whiskey based on its age. For example, the same whiskey but in a barrel that's aged for 12 versus 18 years. Now, for me, this goes in a whole different direction, but let me say what they say the studies could actually end up leading to. Obviously, the study was based on whiskey tasting. The tongue could be used to taste pretty much any type of liquid you could think of, and what they're saying is this could enable authorities to snuff out counterfeit alcohol, test the safety and quality of food, test toxins in public waterways, as well as improve security. Really, any area where a portable, reusable method of tasting would be useful. Yeah, so they did point out some really good things there, but me more so, I think that literally just makes it so that we have another version, a medium of receiving data. So obviously already we've created cameras, radar, etc., and all that is basically replicating our eyeballs. So we've made it so that computers can use the same sense that we can. Same thing with, let's say, a touch. So like we have the ability for sensors to be able to feel the texture of things as well as the pressure of things so that it can measure something just like we can. You know, it can measure how heavy this bowling ball is and how slick the surface is. But we've never had the ability to actually quantify taste. And that's really interesting because I've actually had this conversation with people before. Basically, try to explain taste to somebody who doesn't have a tongue, who has never tasted before. It's a very hard thing to describe. It's kind of like smell. It's like, well, imagine hearing the way that food is, but in your mouth. Like, I don't even know what the best way is to describe it. So also, I don't even know how the best way is to replicate this, and it looks like they have replicated it. What they're saying is very, very interesting. Being able to test for poison by tasting it. And obviously, we're putting computers behind it, not our taste. Because, you know, you have wine aficionados who can taste the best of the wine. But, like, you wouldn't be able to tell one red from the other. I wouldn't. It's all you give me a $5 bottle of wine or a $100 bottle of wine. It's going to get me drunk and it tastes about the same. But we can learn to get better, right? But even the best person who is so good at tasting the differences in a specialty type of food or whatever does not have the capacity that a computer with 1,000 times the computing processing speeds and powers can do with the ability of this, you know, this medium right here being able to test taste. And so for me, I love the idea of testing for toxins and things like that. That's amazing. But man, this goes so much farther than that. Just think, there's a million things. One of the things that comes to my mind is how much better will things taste? Like, so if you're a company, a startup who's about to make a food product, instead of having people who are really good taste testers try it, you would test it against a computer. And the computer would be able to tell you without any subjective opinion, just completely factually based. It would say, this thing tastes better than that thing, period. This adjustment that you made where you put 2% more of this thickening agent into it, or you put a little bit more wine into it, or you added this process, it made it taste better. It was a 78 out of 100. Now it's an 86 out of 100. So without a doubt, if this technology increases and gets better and better and better, all of the food, any company that's making anything that we eat will use these things to make their products taste better. Imagine in the future where everything is the best that it could possibly be. You know, so you'll still have the opinion of like, yeah, I don't like pickles. I do like sweet things. I don't like salty. I like this. I like that. So you'll still be able to say like, I don't want pretzels, even if it's the best pretzel in the world. But for the things that you do like, they will be the best version of them that you have ever had in your entire life. That chocolate cake that you've had that you love, maybe it's a 95, but imagine it was just 5% better. That's what's going to be able to be happening with this technology. And you just align this with all the other text that's coming out. There's some good stuff coming. So I spent a lot of time on that one, but I thought it was a really interesting one. We'll move on to a less serious one, kind of an ironic one. Ready? There's an awkward problem with McDonald's new eco-friendly paper straws. So if you didn't know, and you haven't seen this yet, because a lot of people don't go to McDonald's, McDonald's has been replacing a lot of their plastic straws with paper straws. These are straws that work while you're drinking, your drink with them, but over the course of like 3 days, they get really soggy and just turn into a big lump of paper, which is great, right? They did this because there was the plastic straw ban, and then a lot of people were focusing on plastic straws, and people were trying to figure out a way to replace plastic straws, et cetera, et cetera. So McDonald's did this in the UK and Ireland. There's one problem. The new paper straws are not recyclable, while their old plastic straws were recyclable. So an internal McDonald's memo leaked by an insider to The Sun shows that the members of the staff in the UK are advised to put the paper straws into general trash along with food and other non-recyclables until further notice. Although the materials themselves are recyclable, the memo notes that they are constructed in a way that means it's not possible for the most processing plants to be able to currently recycle them. So that's pretty much that. They're trying to figure it out, and no crap talking to them. They're trying to figure it out. They were trying to do a good thing. They just didn't figure it out all the way through, and then now they're finding the problem in what they were doing. But I just think it's kind of ironic that they're like, we did it, guys. Like, here we go. This is going to be better for everything. And then they replace it with something that's worse. It's just, irony is always one of my favorite types of comedy. Anyways, that is it for the news today. A bit of a longer one. I usually keep these under 20 minutes, but man, lately we've just been having some good news, and I've just been really feeling the podcast. And a lot of you guys have been sending in DMs and messages and even leaving comments and reviews. Thank you for leaving the reviews on the podcast and just saying you guys have been loving it. And a lot of you have been saying this is the only podcast you listen to, or you like listening to this because it opens up your mind to new concepts when we do the interviews and concept videos like the last one podcast where we talked about masculine versus feminine energy. Then a lot of you guys say you just like to get excited about the same kind of stuff I like to, like tech and medicine and stuff. So I really appreciate it, and it's brought me a lot of motivation and inspiration to do better and make more interesting podcasts because I love these, and the fact that I'm hearing from you guys makes me want to make more of them because I know that there's people out there listening. Of course, I can see the amount of plays and views, so I know that there are people listening, but even if there's 1,000 views or whatever and there's 0 comments, I feel more inspired by the 5 comments that come in if it had half as many views, because I'm like, those are real people. I'm seeing their actual words. So I've seen you guys DM me. I appreciate it is what I'm saying. That's probably why the podcasts are a little bit longer, is because I'm just getting fired up and freaking stoked to make these. So thank you guys for checking out Beyond the Podcast. Once again, the podcast where we, what do we do to you? Well, I don't know. We send you into space, for no reason at all, because we just want to send people to space, and everyone's in a space race, and we leave you up there because we don't have enough money to bring you back. So yeah, enjoy the moon. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, make sure to use AmazonBrian.com, and I think you guys know what it'll do. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode, which will be an interview or a concept, and I'm hopefully going to be able to do an interview with my pops, so that will be very interesting. I love you guys. I hope you have a fantastic week, and we'll see you in the next episode.